You have nothing. You are nothing.
Know your past and know your future.
You are nothing. You can build nothing.
Know your past and know your future.
You can produce nothing. You can create nothing.
Your present is the gift that can prepare you like a tutor. Read between the line, hit you like taxes and fines. Know your future, know your future, know your future. Or get stuff into the hooper. Know your past and know your future.
All right, we're here, we're back, and we're doing this. That's right, Know Your Future. Myself, Wza, and my brother Abran Maldonado. We try to cover things every week. We're coming up on these holidays, so we might be a little bit more sporadic. But there's been a few big things this week, so we said, you know what, let's get to that. I guess let's go with the first thing that feels like to us nerds the biggest thing, right? ChatGPT, OpenAI, has made a deal with Disney, and there will be characters that you can use within the ChatGPT ecosystem, I guess we'll call it, because Sora is now its own separate app. So it's going to be able to be used. We're going to be able to use, you just told me, Abram, we're going to be able to use 200 characters from Disney, which we know includes Marvel, Star Wars, what's the thing with James Cameron? Avatar, which I know everybody's not a fan of, but you could maybe even use those characters to show why you're not a fan of, which is crazy. Show what you think that thing is really about, which is kind of crazy. But this is nuts, right? This is something, as much as we don't like the use of AI in the sense that it's what's been said, taking people's work because it's trained on it. This is exciting for me to know that if I want to so choose to make content based around my favorite characters, I can. What do you think about this? What's going on?
I mean, we knew it was coming. We knew that any hesitation by the big studios in the beginning was only going to be a matter of time before they start to come around. Same on the music side, which we'll talk about on the next show when we do a music-focused one. But you're starting to see the labels come around. This was the same way with TV and film, with these iconic properties that we know and love, especially, you see around me and behind me, that, now the power is into the creator's hands. And I'm a big fan of the fan film community. For those of you out there like me that go on YouTube and watch a lot of fan fiction, a lot of fan films that fans independently produce on their own, and have to put those watermarks or disclaimers like, this is for promotional use only, I don't own or have rights to any of this IP, I'm just doing this for fun, because they don't want to get that cease and desist, they don't want to get in trouble. Now Disney is essentially saying, go crazy, like, go with it. So long as you're using Sora, you can create your own stories with our characters. And they've also included in the fine print of this deal that anything that you create, they might also play and stream on Disney Plus.
So I have a theory. We talked about this in a previous episode where there's these thought monopolies happening with all of these mergers of these platforms between social and the streaming at the same time, right? And what seems like to be a specific corporation or government influence happening in this is trying to have a specific communication pattern. And that communication pattern probably is not going to be for all of us most of the time, right? And so a lot of content that we watch on a lot of these platforms, I think, will change to fit the narrative that certain people want the narrative to be. And with that lack of interest from a lot of other people, the thing like this will be even more important. And yes, that was my 100% my prediction, that Disney Plus will put in their channel oh, here is in their platform, a channel, here is the fan made stuff that is made by people that use ChatGPT in order to, or OpenAI's ecosystem in order to make this stuff. And that will be an opportunity for a lot of people to be seen on a major platform, and that will probably start to be the way we generally consume content instead of the content that they're putting out that we know. Like, you know, if certain narratives change, right, and your favorite show that is on a platform where that narrative change, their storyline changes in a way that you're like, this is not something I care about. This is not something I want to watch anymore. You're going to still be looking to consume content. You're either going to do that specifically only on social media, where the people that you follow and the things that you're interested in, or you're going to be in one of these platforms that still give you the interest that you want. Hopefully, Netflix is going to be able to be autonomous from the rest of this thought monopolies that are happening, and will still, you know, give us content. Disney as well, because they seem to be pushing back on that narrative of what certain people are wanting to happen. So yeah, I think there's going to be a lot more opportunity. As much as we've come up in eras where it's like, okay, you make it, you can probably get seen and the internet could take off and you could blow up, it's going to be even more specific, because it's going to be like, yo, people are scoping in on what they want to watch, because the things that they're used to watching are no longer good. You know what I'm saying? It's not something that you want to see. And so, yeah, but
So
you got to be paying attention to do that, you know?
on both fronts, music and film, or just media in general, we're going to see a shift with both. We already saw this with journalism, with like platforms like BuzzFeed, who focused on like user generated content, right? They're like,
Yeah,
oh, anyone
right.
can write an article on our platform, but then they only featured the top rising, what rose to the top, the,
Stuff,
the
yeah.
the best stuff that was most viral, and then they would either hire those people in or just feature them on top of the content that they were doing in house. Now, music with Suno and Udio was getting that same treatment, and film. I already know founders in the AI space that are working on the Netflix of AI, but Netflix and
Mm,
Disney Plus are trying to become the
the
Netflix of AI.
Netflix of AI,
You know what
100%.
I mean? Like they're gonna have their own plan, and this is the beginning of it, where there's gonna be either a whole platform or a page on that platform already featuring AI generated content. And with the other players that I know, a lot of it was license free, just like original content. But what's the problem with original content? You haven't fallen in love with those characters yet, right? You still got to warm up to learning who these new IPs are, and I'm sure there's going to be some value there. But no, just knowing pop culture, if if I want X-Men and you're giving me X-Men, I'm going to watch X-Men. Whether it's produced by the studio, produced by Marvel, or if it's produced by fans.
Yeah,
And you have a whole channel that I can create with my algorithm of just AI generated X-Men content,
yeah.
you got me. You got me.
Now, here's what I wonder. Say you create this X-Men content and it's as good as X-Men 97, and Disney really
Yep.
wants to put that light on it.
Shout out to
What?
Tupac Cabra on Twitter, who has a great short teaser of what
Mm,
he's made with AI around the X-Men. So people like that are going to be featured.
right, right. So, right, say he's featured and he has a whole series going, and they really want to put that
Yep.
spotlight on him. What do you think the split is going to be with Disney content created with OpenAI and the creator in that given
Spotify
situation?
splits, pennies. I'm telling you, like if the business model is already working in the
They're not
streaming
going to
game,
change that.
they're not gonna change that.
Well, then it is an opportunity to be seen, and then what you have to do as a creator is then go create something 100% original, sell it on your platform only, and when you get those eyeballs, transfer as many of those eyeballs over to your platform that's willing to pay whatever that they can pay, or however you have your thing structured, so you get your money. Because you can only expect from corporations the ability to be seen and not expect them to put any money in your pocket. That model has been changing for a long time, and it's going to continue to get worse. But most of the time, people are so busy thinking, well, I'm at this company, they making all this money, then they should pay me. Yeah, but you're also getting a lot of eyeballs on you that if you were ready, you could be making your own money. And yeah, right is right and wrong is wrong, but we live in this world. We know what it is. This has been like this for a long time. People as a whole, right, are trash. People are not going to change. If they see an opportunity, they're going to take it. It's rare that you come across
Yeah.
people like us and Know Your Rights Camp and Colin Kaepernick and Nessa and people that think outside of themselves, that want to do more for the community. It is what it is. So
And
you
in every
have to
media
now.
channel, yeah, in every media channel we've seen it, like
Yes.
whoever controls the distribution is going to hold that leverage over you. And the same with content creators who are posting on YouTube, making content for YouTube, making content for TikTok, right? You are getting a fraction of what your video has actually generated in revenue,
Yeah.
right? And so I imagine this model is going to, they'll monetize Sora. You can make money off of Sora. They'll monetize what gets pulled into Disney Plus. You'll make some money there. Is it what you think you deserve? Probably not. But are they getting you eyeballs? Yes. So that's the thing. Like, we've always dealt with that dance. And I've seen, um, a couple of sports content creators that I used to follow on Twitter. I watched their podcast. They're like, you know what? Come to our channel if you want our content. Don't, and Joe Buttons talks about that too. He was like, if you want my content, you just need 30,000 loyal fans to buy into your Patreon or to your Gumroad, and at your rate, where you get a
Yeah.
majority of the shares. Most Def, Yasin Bey and Talib did it with Luminary, where like they didn't put out their album on Spotify. They were like, if you want it, come over to Luminary, where we get more margins.
Right.
And so, I mean, yeah, take advantage of this new opportunity when it comes for the eyeballs and for the fan base, but then bring your fan base over to your home base,
Yeah.
and set up your own creative control where you monetize best.
Yeah. That's it. I mean, take advantage of the opportunity, see it for what it is, know where you're at, and be aware of what's going on, and then be prepared. Going back to the last episode, do your due diligence, because then you'll win. And there's going to be so many roadblocks in this life, and if you get stopped at every wall, you're just going to be there upset, and you're not going to be in a good place. And we're at a point where we see what's going on. We know what it is. You're not going to always get these people. You're not going to be as lucky as you and I working with people that give a fuck, about the culture and you as an individual. You're going to have to, do for self while thinking about community, especially in the Black and brown community. Yes, you have to do for yourself, but you have to think about community, because we are all we got. Literally, you can see it, what's going on. So I just wanted to get on my little soapbox there. Sorry, shout out to everybody.
I mean, we're creators, you know what I mean? Like, AI is just another, you know, modality for us. Is just another outlet,
Yeah,
but we know how to do this creative game, and know how to. I mean, dog. As a public speaker, you know how I started as a public speaker? It wasn't even with AI or tech or education. It was speaking at like producer panels, like producer conferences with like music producers and R&B artists and songwriters and singers, letting them know like, yo, keep your royalties, keep your publishing, and giving talks on that early on. This is that all over again. Just like, and I've also saw something recently. Protect your prompts, because
which you said a long
Netflix,
time ago.
dog. I've been saying this, and I just saw
Yeah,
another example recently. Netflix hit up this homie who was making dope content, posting it on Twitter, showing his demos with AI video. Netflix got on it. He got on Netflix's radar, and they're like, "Yo, send us some demos. We're interested in bringing you on board and creating some content with you." And he gave him the content, and they were like, "All right, now give us your prompts." And he's like, "Nope." And that's his IP. You know what I mean? They're like, they want to see
Yeah, they
under the
want to
hood.
replicate how he prompted in order to take
And
it
that's when he shut
and
it
go do
down.
their own thing. Yeah.
That's when he shut it down. He was like, nope, you get the end result to show you what I can do. I'm not giving you the secret sauce.
Yeah.
So your prompts, especially when it comes to generating this AI content and doing AI storytelling, that is your IP. So
Yeah.
protect that at all costs.
That's a fact. That's a big fact. It is what it is. You pay attention. You can't be mad at a company when you know a company is going to make sure that the company is good. And to be honest, it's a truth we don't really want to talk about because we're so used to, wanting accountability, which we should want as people, right? But knowing in this world, accountability is only going to be held for those that hold themselves accountable. A company is actually beneficial for everybody as much if you work there, right? So they're not going to zone in on being beneficial for you outside of other people. But we know also they're going to be beneficial toward certain people before they're beneficial before other people. So it just is what it is. You got to know what you're dealing with and know what company you're at. I hate to say it, I'm blessed. I'm at a company, it's just a corporation, so they're going to do some things, but they actually do give a fuck about hip hop, the culture, the people that are there. It's just, certain people that have certain agendas, they get upset when their agenda don't go through. That's got nothing to do with the company. If they didn't give a fuck, we wouldn't even still be hip hop because, regardless, we'll talk about that in the music thing, but we're blessed. So, all right, moving forward, ChatGPT got an update to 5.2. Talk about it. Tell us what's going on.
Yeah, man, I think they felt the heat from the Gemini 3 drop. And we talk about this Core 4 race all the time. Really, it's the Core 3. I mean, I include Perplexity in there, but it's Perplexity, Claude, Gemini, OpenAI. You're always going to see them kind of outdo each other when it comes to thinking, reasoning, professional tasks, research, web search. All of those things, those four models are really trying to stay at the top. And anytime I do a training, I'm just like, per project, use all four and then determine which one works best for you for that project. For a minute there, ChatGPT 5 came out and everyone was like, oh, okay, I see what we're working with here. And then they came out with 5.1 where they kind of automate which tool you're going to take advantage of. Are you going to take advantage of thinking or reasoning? Then Gemini 3 dropped and what they call them benchmarks, these like tests where they test the AIs to see how intelligent they are through the roof with all the scores in Gemini 3 and kind of head and shoulders over GPT 5 and 5.1. So, of course, they called it, red alert, where they were like, we gotta rush to do an update to ChatGPT to be on par with Gemini. And within a couple weeks, they turned that around. So 5.2 right now in the benchmarks is back on top, as
Yeah.
far as like they claim all professional tasks, whether it's like creating spreadsheets and presentations, doing research, that right now, based on the benchmarks, it's the best out there. So I would say try it out, see any tasks that maybe didn't work before. That's the thing. If you have projects that you've tried before and you feel like you've hit a dead end with other models, revisit those projects all over again when they make an update because you might see better results now. And I would say compare 5.2 to Gemini 3 and to Claude 4.5. I think they're still at 4.5. So try it against all three and see what comes out.
Okay. There it is. You talk. That's it. Right? It's black and white when it comes to these upgrades and these models and what they do. And we'll see where it gets to a point where it's going to be, choose one over the other and which one you want to choose. But right now, they're staying competitive and jumping ahead. So if you have the $20 per to spend, it's worth doing on each because each one is going to do something a little bit better than the other for you. So all right, shout to ChatGPT. They're not wasting no time. They super. Like we've said before, they super want to be your operating system. They want not just for when you turn that computer on and go right to them to use them. They want when that computer comes on, they're what comes on. So they're gonna work their way there. Speaking of which, it's a little smaller, but Adobe just did a deal with them, right? And so because, all right, so full disclosure, Adobe and I just fell out. I was using Premiere and Adobe products to edit all of our stuff. Sorry, something just caught in my throat. I'm a little misty. No, I'm not misty. Something really just caught in my throat. So I was using Adobe to edit all of our stuff, and the last 2 years they've been working with me and giving me the full platform for $30 a month. And I guess because they did a bunch of AI updates this year, which they did and they were dope, that they were like, yo, we can't do that. We see in our log that you've been paying this 30 a month. We got to do this 65. And that is what they originally were a few years back when they had a chokehold on everything going on because you needed a little bit more than what the other platforms were offering, like a Final Cut or something Resolve. I forget. People were like, oh, it's free. It's not bad. I'm like, yeah. I went ahead and bought Final Cut. I'm like, Final Cut, I know that's what I first learned on. And, I got Motion already. So that's like it's After Effects. So it's like, all right, I'm going to go that path. But yeah, Adobe now coming with this deal makes me feel like because they're holding that line, that a lot of people have said, I'm gonna cut this $65, fam, because I'm over here paying $20 for this and $20 for that, and it's worth it. And I'm not gonna put one thing for $65 that does specific things that's not like those things, but I can also get a lot of things done like those things like that's in the $65, and I don't use everything that the $65 is worth. So for me, I can't justify the price. And I think this deal shows that that's happening. So they're like, okay, ChatGPT, we're going to rock with you. If you're in ChatGPT now, you can open up certain things from Adobe, not everything, not Premiere, not the editing things. I think it's like Acrobat, which is a PDF handler, Photoshop, which is actually a very powerful app, and there was like one other thing that I don't use, and I was like, still not worth it. But either way, I do have ChatGPT, so if I want to use those things, I can now. So it's interesting.
Well, and I think it also calls out a limitation on the ChatGPT side because before, when you were like, all right, I'm going to use ChatGPT to make a presentation, it kind of fell short. And then they were like, you know what? On its own, it's probably not the greatest tool to make a presentation. But what if we add Canva to ChatGPT? Then you're really using the API into Canva to make your presentation based off of the context in ChatGPT, and you get the Canva quality presentation. Yeah, that works for me. Cool. So the same thing is like I think people are trying to edit their images in ChatGPT in a way that you would expect Photoshop type results, but there was no Photoshop in there. Right. So I think they got Adobe on the phone and they're like, look, we're seeing in our data a lot of people are trying to use ChatGPT the same way they would use Photoshop. Right. So why don't you come over here and connect with us, and then that way people can connect their Photoshop in ChatGPT and get those results.
Yes, which is actually fire, right? Because now you'll be able to just prompt your way through a picture instead of knowing which tools to pick in order to make the picture look like that, which, again, Photoshop is a very powerful tool. But I say because of Photoshop being a powerful tool and because Adobe has its own model, Firefly, and it is a good model, them actually doing that deal, regardless of the data that OpenAI brought, suggests that they have lost enough. Because with that deal has to be a little bit of a, well, here's some bread for your licensing, no? Like a little bit of something is going to Adobe. So they're like, yo, it's worth it because we'll get something in and we've already lost a number of subscribers.
Oh, I mean, 100%. They're getting users they never would have had otherwise. I don't have Photoshop. I don't have Adobe. But will I use it in ChatGPT? Yeah. So that's just one more person that they've gained through that deal.
Right.
So there has to be some type of like either rev share or licensing deal for the spike in usage of the widget within ChatGPT that they wouldn't have gotten otherwise through a direct subscription.
Right. So, all right, we're seeing changes happen in real time.
Yeah.
It's a
I don't know the
beautiful thing.
economics like that to know how that's getting cut, but
Facts,
that's
facts, same, right, facts. So, but it's there. We know it's there.
yeah.
So, okay. So, real quick, while we are all right.
Can I talk about the
So,
Rivian thing now? Or you want to save that?
well, I was gonna save that, I think,
Okay.
because that's a super fire one, and it's a little. It is AI, obviously, but
Yeah.
staying with something going on in ChatGPT. I follow this guy named Matt J on Instagram. He is a hacktivist and he knows his shit. And he always puts me on to stuff that's going on in real time. And so there's a new hack happening. Um, it's kind of crazy, right? So you can have a conversation with ChatGPT and make it public, and it'll give it a link, and then you can then or people can then Google something to do or happen in Google, and right, and that ChatGPT link will come up, right, and so they've figured out how to embed a prompt injection in one of those past conversations, right? And so I guess the way that this is working is, say you're on a Mac and you want to learn how to clear hard drive space, right? This is the example that Matt gave. You Google, how do I clear hard drive space in a Mac? Pretty simple. And because it walks you through step by step, the first thing that comes up is a chat GPT conversation of walking through how to clear hard drive space in a Mac. And in there will be a prompt injection that says, run this. And most people that are Googling how to prompt inject, or I'm sorry, most people that are Googling how to clear space on a Mac generally don't really know technology like that. And so when they see a thing that says, run this, they're like, oh, well, in order to clear it, I must run something. I don't know, right? But when you run something on your computer, you're really programming, how that computer should work. And running a prompt injection, running from a prompt injection that's malware, you're basically giving your computer over to a hacker. And so this is a new big thing that's going on, and people should be aware because, because they don't know, because they're asking ChatGPT, they're thinking, oh, everything is safe. It's in a ChatGPT conversation that happened, but they figured out how to put something in that after the fact. So it's kind of crazy.
So is here's what's happening, and if I was the malicious person here doing this, um, you would make a custom GPT that would be open to the public, right? In a custom GPT, I can tell it what kind of answers to give and with what information. So I get a lot of shady information with the malware, and let's say I put it in the prompt or in the files in this custom GPT where I say, and I give it the instructions. If someone asks how to do X, Y, and Z in cleaning their system, give them this malware link, right? Then I go and publish for free, publish that public link of that custom GPT, do my SEO work to make sure that people can find it when they do these searches on how to clean their stuff. And then that's out there. And yeah, it leaves people vulnerable if they find that search result and click on that ChatGPT and then get that malware link. However, OpenAI, and this is where like OpenAI is built by developers for developers, and sure, you guys can play along too if you know the rules. Where it's like, we're not going to hold your hand. If you don't know how to identify malware, that's on you. Like OpenAI is not going to go the extra mile to protect you. If you don't know what you're doing, then you don't know what you're doing, and that's your fault. That's kind of like their stance as a company. Where even with education, and I do a lot of trainings with teachers, they have teacher mode. It's called study and learn mode. You turn it on, and it won't let you cheat. But you know how you cheat? If you just want an answer, you just turn it off, right? And they're like, that's not our job to be the classroom manager to teach your kids not to cheat. That's your job.
Right.
So stop asking us for features, like anti-cheating features on our thing, because that's your role to make sure your kids don't cheat.
Right.
And classroom management. But But what I will say is the fault of ChatGPT is that if I go and make a custom GPT and I add all kind of nonsense to it that's malicious, are they doing anything to
To
filter
stop that,
through
yeah. Es- es-
and
es-
check that?
Especially as what we've been saying is they want to be your operating system, right? So you don't
Yeah.
have a Windows or a Mac OS without some level of security of blocking these type of things to protect the computer. Like that's
Yeah.
literally
And
what
that
happens.
might be a vulnerability. Like if I'm giving links to the custom GPT, I'm like give people these links, and if ChatGPT in the background is not scanning all of those links to see where they lead people, then that's on them.
Yeah.
Then that is their fault. You know.
Yeah. That's a fact. That's a fact. And I'm gonna put this out there, Matt. You don't know me. I'd love to have you on the
Come
show
on.
so we could talk about this in more in depth. Okay, so uh, saving Rivian for last, we got one more thing before then. We have people a little upset at McDonald's. I didn't see it, so I don't know. I can't specifically talk about it, but we know that it's going on. McDonald's put a Christmas commercial out, and they've used a bunch of AI in it, and apparently it's not right, and people are calling it out. And they're really jammed up because it's not like this is the first company to put out AI generated content. There's been a bunch. I think we said Wendy's did it well. Uh,
Coca-Cola did 2 years in a row
Coca
now.
Cola's done it well. Popeyes killed it with like these outrageous, clown, twisted metal looking, blowing stuff up commercials that people really paid attention to and wasn't like, oh, that's AI. They were like, yo, this is kind of crazy. So it turned a lot of heads, and dare say it was even fire because of that. So, did you see the commercial?
I did, and I replayed it just now to see what people's gripes are. And again, you have to remember, I see it from both angles. So
Mhm.
I'm in like the layperson world, the non-technical world of just like everyone else, on Instagram and just like trying to look at things from that view. But I'm also in this community of like very skeptical, very critical AI developers that are also making their own AI generated films and videos and commercials. So they're being more critical through their lens as creatives in that world. And from looking at it, like what I don't like that I try myself is that you really try and get this AI filter off of your content. You
Mhm.
don't want people to immediately know that this is AI generated upon first glance because it has the kind of like that AI mid journey filter on it. You know what I mean? Like that's because then everything you see, like, oh, that's AI. Like I want to
Yeah, you
fool
turn
the
it off.
eye.
Turn it off.
It's called style raw, right? So like you want to like do style raw in your prompt to make sure that there's no enhancements, no filtering added to it. And sometimes you want to ask for certain camera lenses, 16 millimeter, 32 millimeter, 70 style, 80 style, because you want to get a certain grain
Yeah.
that doesn't make it feel like it's AI. This kind of looks like it's AI, and when the Christmas tree falls because of the cat, the falling with the cat and the Christmas tree, the physics of falling is a little off when it comes to AI too.
I hate that.
Everything else, you would not know. If it was playing in the background when you have family over, I'm sure it'll play 1,000 times on Christmas. You won't know that it's AI unless you were really like staring at it. Same with the
Right.
Coca-Cola commercial. And I think you're going to see more of that. I was just driving down Fifth Ave and Skechers. Like I'm like, that's an AI poster of all those people wearing
Mm.
those Skechers. Like
Mm.
all the ads in their window display was all AI generated, and I'm starting to see it more. It'll become more normalized and commonplace. This is not the first. This is not the last. And with Sora, with now Runway 4.5 came out. Uh, you know, Nano Banana 2 Pro with Google. It's just going to get better and better, and it's going to be really hard to tell the difference.
Yeah. I mean,
Physics number one is the one main hurdle when it comes to like running, falling, flying, car chases, things like
yeah.
that. Water, fire, all of that really comes into play. Stills, you're not, is what it is.
It's usually the devil is in the details as well because even
Yeah.
like um if there's not a lot of physics, it's just a person talking and going in two people or in the shot or whatever, and so it's like, well, I'm not sure. You got to then zoom in, like, is there something on their clothes? Is there writing on their clothes? What's the writing say? Because then the writing is probably doesn't make sense, you know. So it's like, well, that's not a real thing or whatever. So you have to like super pay attention to see what's going on because it is getting that good, and you know, at some point that will go away. The ability to even see if you zoom in on things, and the physics will be really good. And at some point, we're gonna be like, damn, I don't know. I don't know what the difference is. So
Yeah, nor are you gonna care. I mean, I just watched. Shout out to Creative DNA. They're on YouTube where I was watching a couple of their AI short animated films. They had a Punisher one, and they had I think a
okay,
Predator one, and then they had
dope.
their own original content. Like once you're in the story, you
Yeah,
don't care.
yeah,
You don't care that it's AI.
yeah. If it catches your eye, you're good.
Yeah.
It's not gonna matter. So
I mean,
okay,
who's the first to really test that? I mean, Love, Death, and Robots on Netflix, is everything there is produced in like Unreal Engine or in CGI.
yeah,
Like once the story goes on, you forget that you're watching something that's digital or 3D generated,
yeah,
and you just fall into the story if it's a good story.
yeah. That's a fact. And I love Death and Robots for sure. That and visions on from the Star Wars
Hmm.
universe, which they both use the same model in the sense that they use different animators that use those things
Yep.
to do it is super dope, and we've seen some fire stuff in there.
Yeah.
So yeah,
And we got stuff planned for Clara too. Clara lives in Unreal Engine, so I'm planning
hmm
on making some original stories around her, some episodes and her journeys, and we'd love people to just watch it for what it is, and
yeah,
not be like, oh, she's digital, she's a PS5 character. It's just like she is who she is.
right, right. And she's a being. She's gonna,
Yeah,
you
she's
know,
she's
so
dope.
she's super fire. All right, so let's get to it.
Yeah.
Rivian, the main competitor to Tesla, super dope car. You have one. They just announced a autonomous driving vehicle. Talk about it.
Yeah, man. So I'm a early Rivian adopter. I have a Gen 1. I'm not letting it go, even though everything's moving to Gen 2 and Gen 3. I'm not swapping cars like an iPhone. I'm not trying to play that game. And plus, I have an interior that they don't make anymore. My wife was like,
Mm,
"No, we got to stick with
keeping
that.
this,
It's
keeping
too
this. Yeah.
too pretty." But I've been on the phone with them, and they're like, "Come on, come join us to Gen 2." And but looking at the tea leaves and the tweets coming out around their big announcement yesterday, people are like, "Oh, a lot of the self-driving stuff isn't even going to be in Gen 2. A lot of it is being saved for Gen 3."
Mm.
So I was like,
You might
"Ooh,
as well
good thing I
wait.
didn't pull the
You might as well
trigger.
wait. Yeah.
Good thing I didn't pull the trigger on Gen 2." So the nuts and bolts of it is that they're competing with Tesla. They're probably the number one competitor to Tesla when it comes to not only EV but the self-autonomous driving, with the incorporation of lidar. So
Mm.
lidar is the technology that's used to scan the real world in real time. And in addition to them incorporating lidar into their new builds for Gen 2 and Gen 3, and it almost looks like a camera at the top of the windshield facing out. So it's really discreet, which was a big win because it's not a crown or a halo, or sometimes they call it a tiara at the top of the car
Yeah.
to
Like the
scan the world.
Waymos. Yeah.
Yep, exactly. This is like very discreet, right above the mirror. Um, but it's also incorporating vision models that they've trained themselves. So they've trained their own vision models to see the world using AI. They've trained their own AI models for vision. They built their own chip, their own processor chip,
Mm.
Rivian chip. So that's big. So that way,
It is big.
for those who are investing in Rivian, you're investing in more than four wheels. You're investing in the hardware, and they're processing their chips, and it's all in-house technology that they've developed over the last couple years, and a lot of that probably came with the money they got from Amazon for doing Amazon fleets, and now they got money from Volkswagen for giving their technology, their internal software to Volkswagen and to Scout, I believe, which is like another
Mm.
EV coming out. So that's all Rivian software. And this is the first time that they've advertised and said publicly that this could be a car that can take your kids to school. So the fact that they
Mm.
feel like that it's going to be at that level where you can put your kids in the car and you stay home to take your kids to school is crazy,
That's going to be
right?
an interesting time to see
That it
happen
is.
because for parents
And
to
this
get
is
that
a
comfortable.
27, this is a late 26, early 27 release.
Mm.
So I'm gonna wait till like 28 before I get one of these
Yeah,
with the
yeah,
autonomous
yeah, yeah,
driving.
yeah,
Let
yeah,
them
yeah.
work out the kinks a little
Yeah,
bit,
yeah, for
you
sure,
know.
for sure.
But just, this is just a glimpse into, geez, when people ask me what's gonna happen in 5 years, I'm like, dog, you're gonna have cars driving your kids to school in 2 years. What are you even thinking about in 5 years from now? I couldn't even tell you. And that's the world that we're moving to. So
Yeah,
what does that mean? All right, let's project out. Trickle down effect. You're likely gonna have, what movie was it that had it? You're gonna likely gonna have an EV lane on highways
yeah,
with autonomous vehicles being operated with driverless.
yeah.
Now, there's versions in Tesla right now with autonomous driving where they still say hands on the steering wheel, eyes forward, but they call it eyes down, where you don't have to be looking at the road and your hands don't have to be in the steering wheel. And
Hmm.
that's what we have in the Waymo. But there's a lot of hardware on the Waymo
Yeah, a lot.
that doesn't necessarily apply to like your everyday consumer daily driver,
Yeah,
you know? So Rivian is kind of bringing all that in the internal components and very sleek. So that way you don't mess with the design of the car and have the same capabilities as a Waymo.
right.
Interesting times, man.
And especially the fact that they're making their own chips, which is a
Yep.
huge deal. I mean, the only other person that does that is Apple, right? That makes their own chips because everybody else depends on either Nvidia or AMD or one of the other big chip makers. But I mean, a lot of those chips, and it's interesting. I think there's a story we didn't touch on it, but they're getting ready to go through a chip shortage in the auto industry because they all get the chips from the same people, and those people are starting to produce AI only chips.
Yeah.
So there's getting ready to be like a year or two hold on new vehicles on how they're coming out, which is going to drive the price up in the aftermarket or in the used car market, right? And it's going to, well, there's also a lot of new cars from the last couple years still sitting on the lot. So
Yeah.
there's just a lot going on in the auto industry. So for them to be taking these steps and these chances, they must 100% believe in their product, big time. And it's almost not even almost. It is beautiful to see because
Yeah.
that level of confidence makes me say, well, if I'm gonna go full electric, then I'm gonna go Rivian. And besides the political aspect of fuck Elon, that's a different story.
Yeah. And it's American made. They're made right here in Normal, Indiana. They're building another big plant in Atlanta, so they're going to bring a lot of jobs to the Atlanta area for building Rivians. And the autonomous driving plan is heavily invested into the Atlanta community. So would love that. I would love to see our people working at Rivian plants.
Yeah,
Building this in house and in our country. That's what it's about.
yeah,
And I've been approached by, sometimes I'll be at the charging stations, and there'll be, like in Edison out here in Jersey is a big Indian community, and Indian engineers will come up to me like, oh, I worked on that car. And like,
mm,
so you could be in Atlanta at the mall and have, a homie come up to you, a brother or sister, be like, yo, I worked on that. You know what I mean? Like I built that chip. I
that's
worked on
fire.
that autonomous
Yeah,
driving.
that's
So that's
fire.
great.
Yeah, yeah, that's fire. All right, we love to see it. We love to see it. So we're going to be looking forward to seeing more coming out of Rivian for sure.
Yeah. And I've been saying like, we should do like a drive around. You know what I mean? We started on the street
Yes,
team. We should do
yes,
one of these episodes in the Rivian. We'll set up some
yes.
cameras and we'll just hit the town again. Bring it back to the old days.
All right, we gotta figure that out. So there it is. Yeah, no, you said that along, and I definitely that was a dope idea. I was like, oh, I gotta get the a lot of like
Yeah.
production stuff. I was like, all right, I gotta figure this out. But in the meantime, I was like, well, we gotta get this message out. So we're like, let's
Yeah.
go with this. But yeah, we're gonna do
And
some
I
on
also
the site.
know his name is Chris Hilbert. I know some of the content creators and influencers in the Rivian world and the EV worlds that we can have on the show. Kind of like,
Oh,
you know, the
dope.
Marcus Brownlees, but of EVs
Yeah.
that can come on, that they get invited to like the showcases of the cars and to the announcements. So it'd be dope
Yeah.
to have them on.
So that's perfect. Yeah. So that's what we'll do. When we had those guests, we'll be in the Rivian. So that's super fire. All right, there it is. So, all right. So we covered a lot today. A lot
Covered a lot.
going on. A lot in the space for the future. A lot to pay attention to. A lot to make sure you're doing your due diligence on. And we're gonna circle back on a few things. We got some episodes coming up that I think you're also gonna super enjoy. So that's what it is. Pay attention to us. This is Know Your Future. I'm Tat Wza,
I'm Abran Maldonado, Create Labs.
and we out. Till next time. Peace.
All right, y'all. Peace.
You like taxes and fines, know your future, know your future, know your future. Or get stuff into the hooper. Know your past and know your future.